Hey, it's Davis, and if you want to see the 5 easiest ways to lower and control your blood sugar, well, let's just get right into it. Hey, it's D, and you know what? Just to let you know, right now I have like painted fingernails. My daughter and I, we were spending some quality time, and she painted my nails. They're kind of coming off, coming apart, whatever. But hey, look, let me tell you right now that for you, I made you a gift. I know I didn't tell you I made you a gift, but if anything that you're about to hear and or see is any help for you, I made you a free 21-day blood sugar transformation challenge. It's literally where I share with you, all the different tips, tricks, and strategies that literally help me turn everything around in the hopes that I can really help save as many lives and help save as many families that deal and struggle with the same thing that I have, which is type 2 diabetes. So I made it for you for free. You can get it right now at lifeovertype2.com/21days. Again, that's lifeovertype2.com/21days. So let's get right into the juice, okay? So thing number one, it's as far as like lowering your blood sugar very, very easily, okay, is gonna be walking. Now I really can't begin to tell you just how powerful and effective this is, okay? Like a simple 5, 10, 15, 7-minute walk. Okay, whether you just want to take it at your own pace, whether it's actually just bringing down like the stress levels, getting some oxygen in the system, or even if you want to like maybe pick up the pace and go for a little bit of a power walk, I can't begin to tell you just how powerful walking is. In fact, if you're anything like me, feel free to actually test your blood sugar before you go for a walk, and then go for a walk, take it at your own pace, start with maybe like a 5, 10, or a 15 minute, go for maybe like a 15-minute walk, right? And then actually start to, test yourself anywhere from 5, 15, 30 minutes after, and watch that cascading effect over the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, hour. It's amazing, okay? Absolutely super, super powerful, okay? Tip number 2 is to actually stop having dinner at 8, okay? Like if you can, stop eating at 8 and don't have your first meal until 10 o'clock the next day, okay? And here's why. If you're anything like me, you're a bit of a busybody, you start off in the morning, maybe you're like married, got family or whatever. By the time you get your morning going and, by the time you look down, sometimes it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, right? The beautiful thing about that is that if you stop eating at 8, don't have your first meal until 10, that's actually a 14-hour fasted window, right? A very, very easy and simple way to go ahead and introduce you to intermittent fasting. Now, depending on what your tolerances are and where you feel comfortable, if, by all means, if you make that 10 o'clock no problem, feel free to go ahead and push that window 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. The beautiful thing about that is that when we look at these bigger fasts that people doing, it doesn't necessarily have to be an all or nothing thing. We can literally, just like anything else, ease our way into it. And the next thing you know, we're not going through all the other hassles and the struggles that everyone else is going through by trying to force themselves right out of the bat to do like an 18-hour, 20-hour, 22-hour, or even a 3-day fast. Why? Simply by pushing it 15 minutes, we can now grow that window that much easier and more effective, okay? Now, thing number 3 is going to be when you have your first meal, okay? Like, at 10 o'clock or maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock, whatever it is, brunch, late breakfast, or whatever it is, have a really big meal, okay? And really more than anything, have it, very, very protein based. Now, obviously, keto right now is obviously very, very popular. I did keto, good 2.5, close to 3 years. Still love, the keto community. Have a lot of friends in it, and a lot of people doing phenomenally well. However, the only difference there is that, when we look at, let's say, olive oil, right? Very, very good for the heart and all this other good stuff. And by the time we actually go to measure it and we look at the fact that, like 1 tablespoon, okay? You actually pull a tablespoon out of your drawer and look at it, like it's not a lot, okay? So if we look at 1 tablespoon, which is normally like 120 calories, okay? By the time we have like, if we just go like this in a circle, like they do on the TV shows, right? By the time we do that once or even twice, that's like 1,000 calories, okay? To put things in perspective, 1,000 calories is almost an entire pound of steak. So the beautiful thing about that is by the time we go real heavy on the proteins, here's why it's so effective, okay? Number 1, what we're doing is we're starting with this thing called the fiber matrix. Fancy words for saying whenever we look at the way that different fuels break down and process in the system, right? Whether you're looking for carbohydrates, proteins, or fat, right? Obviously, if we look at like burning energy, like energy in a fire, right? Carbs would basically be like paper or chaff, right? You throw it in the fire and like, right? You know what I mean? And then obviously wood is going to be, or protein is more like wood, right? When you actually put protein in there, obviously it takes the body a while to break down, right? So for example, if we had something like a piece of like banana or a piece of strawberry, for example, versus a piece of steak or a piece of chicken, what do you think is going to dissolve or process in the body that much faster? Obviously the fruit, right? And so what we're doing when we throw something like protein in there, it gives our body something that's really tough and takes a while to break down. Your body's literally got to work and like literally break down what's called a fiber matrix, right? To really like break down that food. The reason why we are going, again, for more protein than we are fat, right? Healthy fats is because, again, if we have like 8 tablespoons of like, olive oil, right? Versus like an entire pound of steak, what do you think is going to keep you satisfied for a lot longer? The steak, right? So not only that, the other part there is, here's what we're also doing, okay? Because the protein takes a while to break down and burn, it gives our body the time, okay? It gives our body the time to now burn off and bring down those excess blood sugars floating around in the system, okay? And this works phenomenally well if we walk, right? And if we walk in the morning especially, okay? Even if it's like a 5 or a 7 or even a 10-minute walk in the morning when on an empty stomach. Why? Because again, any of those residual blood sugars in the system just floating around, all we're doing here is not only are we putting the body in a position to where it always, it burns that stuff. Look, so whether if I stop eating at 8, start eating it, or again, don't eat again until 10, whether I'm brushing my teeth, I'm sitting in traffic, I'm on the toilet, I'm getting dressed, I'm getting the kids ready for school, whatever it is, that energy has to come from somewhere, right? And it's an easy and effective way to bring down those blood sugars. And then again, when we're having, a bigger protein-based meal for lunch or even a late breakfast, again, it forces our body to burn off more and more of that excess sugar. Okay, now here's another reason why we want to go higher protein and a bigger meal, if you will, on the earlier part of the day. Okay, so again, when we look at like how calories burn, or at least how different fuels burn, whether we're looking at carbohydrates, proteins, or fats, right? What we're doing here is by having a bigger meal earlier in the day, okay, it basically gives us the rest of the day to burn that stuff off, right? So look, whether, we're at, work, or we're, even if it's on the weekend, or maybe we want to get like a little bit of exercise in on our lunch break, or maybe even a walk after work, or, maybe even like a workout section somewhere in between. Well, by having that first meal after 10 o'clock, whether it's 11, 12, 1, 2, whatever it is, we still have the entire rest of the day to burn off all that fuel, okay? And then essentially all we're doing there is going to have a little bit of a lighter dinner. Now, there's another reason why we also want to have a really big benefit that we get is type 2 diabetics. Okay, and the work of this goes to, and the credit for this goes to a doctor by the name of Dr. Jason Fung. He's a nephrologist out of Canada. Okay, and I'm definitely not going to take credit for his work. Credit given where credit is due. This guy is an absolute just priceless guy to have in the diabetic community, and here's why. Okay, so basically one of the biggest reasons why we want to have a big meal, okay, is that it eliminates snacking. Okay, it absolutely eliminates snacking. So if I eat a really big meal and I'm super full, well, I shouldn't be snacking, right? And it does two things to empower us. Number one, it puts us in a place where we can be very honest with ourselves and saying, hey, it gives us power over those cravings. Like, hey, dude, if I just stuffed my face, and if I know that my body is still trying to break that stuff down, and even if I ate something, my body's still full, like, then I really don't need to eat it. Right? We can now draw that line with that part of our brain saying, hey, we don't need to eat this, right? Because why? Because we're still kind of full, right? Number one. Number two is when it comes to insulin resistance. Again, credit to Dr. Jason Fung, and I'll put a link to his video explaining this in great detail, below, okay? Here's basically the simple gist of it, okay? So whenever we eat food, we all know as type 2 diabetics, one of the biggest issues that we have, and probably why we're type 2 diabetic in the first place, is our insulin resistance. Okay, and one of the things that with insulin and insulin resistance, and more specifically snacking, is that it works kind of like the the boy that cried wolf. Okay, so it's kind of like this. Have you ever heard of the story of the boy that cried wolf? Basically, there's this this sheep herding town, and they tell this boy, hey, look, watch the sheep, but don't cry wolf. Okay, like only say wolf when there's an actual wolf there. Okay. Long story short, he's sitting there, he's bored, doesn't know what to do with himself. He cries wolf. Everybody comes out of the woodwork thinking that, their sheep are going to get slaughtered just to show up. And then obviously there's nobody there, right? And they were just like, dang it, kid, we'll let that one slide. And then what does he do? He does it again and again and again and again and again. To the point where by the time an actual wolf shows up, he cries for help, and all the sheep get slaughtered because the villagers, they weren't listening anymore. Okay, that is essentially how insulin resistance, the layman's version, or at least my dumbed down version of it, essentially works, right? So basically, when we eat food, okay, insulin sends signals to the cell saying, hey, we got food coming, open up, right? We're gonna have some glycogen flowing through the bloodstream, and we need you to open up, right? And then so what happens? Cells like, okay, cool, I open up, right? And then we eat again, it's like, hey, open up. And the cell's like, all right, I got you, right? By the time we do that over and over again, okay, insulin resistance increases, and basically that's our cells like saying, hey, dude, like I heard you already, shut up, I'm not listening anymore, okay? So what we're doing by having a bigger meal is instead of sending a whole bunch of signals over and over, we're just gonna send one big signal, right? And then we're gonna give it a break. Okay, we're going to let the system rest. Okay, we're going to let those villagers, we're going to give those cells time to calm down. Okay, easy way of increasing our insulin sensitivity. Okay, all the credit, as cool as that sounds, all the credit goes to Dr. Jason Fung. Okay, that's where I learned it from. Obviously, there's other people out there talking about intermittent fasting. I just want to be able to give good old-fashioned credit where credit is due. Now, if you also want an extra resource on this, if you saw my how I lose like 11 pounds in 3 days, absolutely perfect place to actually see more on this, and I'll put that link in the video below. Okay. Tip number 4, okay, is going to be use foods that lower blood sugar. I know this is super simple. I'll give you some examples right now, okay? Some of them are going to be my recipe for the, I call it like crack dressing, right? So it has everything from like apple cider vinegar, like lemon juice, liquid aminos, it's got garlic, it's got sage, right? So sage, just so you know, is used and really recognized for its metformin-like effects, okay? Wonderful stuff. At the same time, rosemary helps with its polyphenols, okay? Garlic is actually really good. Now look, I don't want to get too into the science, and what I'll do is I'll put a link not only to the video, but in that video for crack dressing, right? Inside of that, or I actually should say it's miracle dressing. I call it miracle dressing. Inside of that miracle dressing is all the case study information if you want to read up more on it, okay? I'm a big fan of, really just kind of sharing the knowledge, right? More than anything, in the hopes that it not only inspires you, but it empowers you and really just kind of gives you more and more resources to go ahead and crush type 2 diabetes, okay? So yes, tip number 4 again is to use foods that lower blood sugar, okay? Super simple. One of my absolute favorites also is actually gonna be beef, you know what I mean? Like whether it be a protein burger, a steak, or whatever. And the reason why, again, is because it's so tough for our body to break down, right? And so nutrient dense that, there's a lot of nutrients that we get out of it. At the same time, it positions my body in a way where any of that, floating glycogen that I might have floating around easily burns. Why? Because, it's like burning paper versus burning the wood. The wood's going to take a lot longer to burn. Okay. And then tip number 5 is going to be, if a lot of this stuff at once, okay, seems like too much, okay, which look, at the end of the day, let me tell you right now, the last thing that I ever want to give you is like, hey, here's 5 ways to blah. And then like, all of it sounds, you're like, this is great. And then like, next thing you know, none of it sticks. Okay, I would rather give you something that we all know that can actually like last you long term and that can serve you for the rest of your life. And so here's the easiest way to make sure that that happens for you. okay, is that tip number 5, again, if a lot of this, taking all of this stuff at once seems like too much, okay, start with one thing, okay? Start with one thing and build that into a routine, okay? Build a routine around that, okay? So for example, the easiest win, probably more than anything, is it might be, for you, it might be, going for a 5, 7, or a 10-minute walk, okay? Or it might be, hey, look, stop having dinner at 8 and then don't eat until like 10 o'clock the next day, if not a little bit later, right? A lot of us, if you're busy, if you're working or whatever, a lot of us do that already, you know what I mean, without even trying, right? So make sure more than anything that you stack a lot of really easy wins so they become part of your, daily routine. Okay, and the next thing you know, go ahead and add another one on there. And the next thing you know, add another one on there. And then the next thing you know, add another one on there. And the next thing you know, you have all of these things as part of your routine, and you're lowering and controlling your blood sugar in ways that's very, very easy, super, super efficient, doesn't take a lot of work, right? A lot of the stuff that we just talked about, eating salad dressing, like that doesn't take a lot of work. And to be totally honest, the miracle dressing that I'm talking about, I put it on everything, man. I put it on my proteins. I put it on my salad. This is going to sound super gross, but I'm just being so honest. The vinaigrette portion tastes so good. I literally have bottles of it all the time in my fridge, and I'll literally just take the bottle, open the pop the cap, and I'll just squeeze it right into my mouth. And my kids are like, that's gross. And I'm like, dude, it tastes so good. Okay, in fact, my water is like watering right now just thinking about it. So anyways, I absolutely hope that serves you well. This right now, I'll tell you right now, were some of the key things, more than anything, that really kind of like helped me turn everything around. So I hope more than anything that it serves you well. If it did, please make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell icon, and that way, you can get videos just like this as they are released, or however the YouTube thing works, right? But more than anything, I just want to make sure you get the fresh love, or at least fresh content, as fresh as possible. So yeah, go ahead and subscribe, and then go ahead and click on that bell notification icon thing, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Later.